Kyle Shanahan's going back to Brock Purdy. Tom Brady says he should stick with the hot hand, who's Mac Jones. Let's see what Tom Walsh thinks. Good morning. Welcome to the 49ers Playbook, starring former Raiders offensive coordinator Tom Walsh and me, Grant Cohn. It's a big week because this is the week that Kyle Shanahan has decided to go back to his franchise quarterback and say thank you, but no thanks to Mac Jones playing anymore. Tom, what do you think of the way Kyle Shanahan is handling Mac Jones before we talk about Brock Purdy?
To be honest, Grant, I think it's been butchered from day one. And as a head coach and as a leader of the organization, as the head coach and the pseudo general manager, whatever other title that he wears, he could have come out day one and said, okay, Brock is injured. We're going to go with Mac as his replacement. And he'll play until, Brock is totally healthy, and not go through all the verbal gymnastics that have gone on for the past months. And, is he practicing hard enough? Is he going in limited participation? And I think it's just kind of muddled the whole picture. And it's kind of a disservice, not only to Mac, but also to Brock, is the way that it's been bantered back and forth like a ping pong ball. And it's not fair.
It seems like they went from being very grateful that Mac Jones stepped up and was playing better than they expected to having like a quarterback controversy on their hands that they didn't expect. And now, rather than just being grateful that Mac Jones exists and he's taken you this far, it seems like they almost want to address the conversation around the quarterback controversy and prove that they were right to pay Brock all that money. It seems like the motivation for benching Mac Jones now is a little strange, especially considering that he just had his best game.
Well, you cannot come up with a legitimate reason as to why you're benching Mac other than to say that Brock is and was the starting quarterback, and that once he's 100% healthy, he'll be back out there playing. That's his job. So Mac filled in favorably and did well and admirably and deserves all the accolades. Had a fantastic game last week. But if Kyle would have approached it from the beginning and said, look, Brock is our starting quarterback. He's now injured. Mac is going to come in and replace him. And then once Brock is healthy, Brock will be back out there. And if he would have said that from day one, you would not be having this discussion at all.
The weird thing is that last week, or just a few days ago after the Rams loss, Kyle was asked if Brock could play, and he said, yeah, he could have played in this game. I just didn't want to put him in that situation. So it makes me wonder, like, this week, why this week? Were they afraid that if they brought back Brock against the Rams and he lost, that they would cause an uproar? Is this a good week because they think they're going to beat the Cardinals? What is the thought process here from a coach's perspective?
Well, the one thing I would have been concerned about is the use of the word situation. If you look at Kyle has dug his own hole. When he says, I did not want to put him in this situation, what is the situation? What defines that word in Kyle's mind as to why he did not want to put Brock in that situation? Was that the situation against playing a very talented team, which may win the ball game, and then he did not want to trot Brock out there cold and rusty and go up against the Rams, who are a legitimate contender for postseason play, and have an adverse reaction? So Kyle chose to hold him back until he's going to go down to Arizona and play Phoenix this week and let Mac take the quiver of arrows for the result of the game, regardless of win or lose.
For weeks, the 49ers were saying all the right things about Mac Jones. He's just such a phenomenal quarterback. He's so tough. But then when they saw the light at the end of the tunnel, they saw Brock coming back. It seems like Kyle and George and certain players kind of made it clear, like, hey, thanks a lot, Mac. He's a nice little quarterback, but Brock is way better, and he's going to take our offense to whole new heights. If that doesn't happen and Brock, God forbid, re-injures the toe and Mac Jones has to come back again this year, from a psychological standpoint, what does it do to a quarterback when you sort of give him that vote of no confidence and bench him after a good performance mid-season?
I think Matt realize and evaluate how well he has and has not played. So regardless of what the front office or the head coach or even some of the players in the locker room say, either to his face or behind the scenes, etc., or in the media, Mac has to be able to say, you know what, I gave it my best shot. I played well. I did this. I did that. And then realize that, unfortunately, this game is a business and it's a results business. And the Niners feel like with what they paid Brock and everything, they want him out there on the field. They promoted him as the face of the franchise. And it doesn't, bode well for them to let him sit on the bench and have Mac just keep winning all these ball games, because then the bottom line is, from a financial perspective, I paid, hundreds of millions of dollars for Brock, and then I've got a 2-year contract with a quarterback who's making maybe $8 million total, who's going out there and far exceeding the value for what they paid for him as a free agent. And then there's that justification, which went back to our conversations we had for months about, why are you giving Purdy this contract when you still have another year left? And he's had some questionable performances in the last couple of years, and also had a question of being able to stay healthy. And he proved again this year, for whatever reason, freak of nature or whatever, not healthy.
So what you're saying is that when Mac Jones started playing really well, that was good for Kyle Shanahan, the head coach. He created that. He fostered the environment for Mac to flourish. But then when Mac started playing really, really well and made people question whether the contract for Brock Purdy was worth it, whether they were foolish to extend him before they had to, that sort of made Kyle Shanahan, the general manager, look not so good. And now he's sort of trying to change the conversation. Is that possible?
Well, he is trying to massage the narrative in his favor. But you know what? Here's the bottom line. If Brock goes out there and plays well on Sunday against Arizona, there's no concern, because he validates why he is the starting quarterback and the face of the franchise. And Brock can say, well, hey, I'm healthy. I went out and I played, and that's the results. Now, if he goes out there and lays an egg, which I don't think he will do, because I'm looking at Arizona's roster and the healthy players and the injured reserve players. My goodness, it's like, I won't say it's a cream puff game and a cupcake game, but I tell you what, they've got like 5 or 6 starters out on offense. They're struggling on defense a little bit. This is the perfect opportunity to trot Brock back out there and have him have a good game, and then restore the credibility within the franchise as to why he's worth the money they paid him.
Well, it's interesting. We're talking about timing. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's a validation game for Kyle to validate what they paid Brock and that he is the starter. And even though Mac has played well, they can prove that Brock is worth the money. And they've got 4 games coming up. I think the opponents, counting Arizona, thus far this season are like 11-26, the next 4 weeks. So they've got a chance to, get Brock in shape, in gear, scrape off the rust before they go into a pretty tough final 3 games of the season. So they could basically pave their way to the playoffs with 4 more wins these next 4 weeks.
Well, I don't know if 10 wins will make it to the playoffs. It might. 11 wins probably will, certainly will. So they'd have to go 4-3 or 5-2 down the stretch. And I mean, could they do it with Mac Jones? I think they could. Maybe. Could they do it with Brock Purdy? Maybe. I guess we're going to find out. But if they don't, if they lose against the Cardinals because Brock Purdy plays like he did against the Jaguars, this effort to prove that they were right to sign this contract could get in the way of their playoff aspirations, which I think would be incredible. Sometimes you have to prioritize winning and what the Niners are prioritizing is their reputation. I don't know. Good luck.
Well, it's become kind of more of a political football than it has been an actual football from a pigskin perspective. So now, they've got some work to do. They need a win to basically placate themselves and to silence the critics in the media and the fans and things of that nature. That's, as John Madden would say, that's the best deodorant that you have. It can mask a lot of stink with a win. And that's what the Niners are hoping for this Sunday.
Well, the timing is great. They're facing the Cardinals. The Cardinals are banged up. And not only is Brock coming back, but Ricky Pearsall is coming back. I asked Kyle Shanahan about Ricky last week, and he's like, it's just the darndest thing. It's been 6 weeks. He can't practice at all. He just can't hit his GPS numbers, whatever that means. From my perspective, he was running very fast on the sideline. And then in the locker room, he was shooting jumpers. He looked like he was pretty good to go. And then all of a sudden, it's the strangest thing. He's good to go, and he's going to play this week too. So that should be a big boost for Brock Purdy. Not only will he have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, but he might have like a deep game. Coincidence?
If you were a conspiracy theorist, you would have a field day with how all this is orchestrated, and who's pulling the strings on this deal. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of reeks, it just smells, I don't know, but it is what it is. So it's beyond our perspective. It's beyond, we can comment all we want. Brock is the one who's going to play. Pearsall may be out there and play, and then Kyle's the one orchestrating the whole thing.
Okay, so here's my question. They're feeling very ambitious this week. Brock's going to play. He just needs to have 3 aggressive starts, but he was limited in practice. So it seems to me that the Niners have given themselves a little wiggle room. At the end of the week, they could say, you know what? We wanted him to play. We thought he could play. We watched him in practice, and we didn't want to go easy on him because we saw what happened last time. You know what? He's just not ready. Do you think there's a possibility that they balk at the last minute, or do you think they're all full speed ahead?
Well, according to reports, Brock had a limited practice yesterday. Right. You were probably down there in Santa Clara, but I don't know how much of the practice you really saw or they allowed the media to view. But the thing about it is, previously, Kyle has said that Brock needs to have 3 game speed practices for Kyle to believe the guy's ready to play the game. Now, from that perspective, if you had a limited practice yesterday, how can you tell me that counts as a game speed practice if it's limited? What does limited mean, and what does game speed mean in terms of how Kyle wants to define it? So, once again, he's the guy pulling the strings, and he's orchestrating this whole thing so he can justify it and cut it up and splice it any way he wants to get the kind of end result that he wants.
I asked Kyle yesterday at his press conference, I said, you guys were confident that he was ready to go for week 4. Turns out he wasn't. Now you're confident that he's ready to go this week. Why are you confident that you're right this time? And he didn't give me a snarky answer. He said, well, we've waited a lot longer this time, and we're really waiting for Brock's okay, which, I don't know, does that imply that they rushed Brock out without him being 100% eager to go out? I guess that kind of implies. He didn't say that, but that was his answer. What do you think of that?
He's going to skirt around the issue, and he's trying to frame it so that he can, placate everybody's wishes and aspirations and hopes. And until the game is played, you're not going to have a real answer. Regardless of what he says, regardless of what Brock says, regardless of what Max says, until Brock trots out there on Sunday and gets under center in the gun or whatever, no one's going to have a real answer as to how Brock is going to play until he is on the field in between. And I'm sorry, but he's going to have to play. Now, if he can, he will. If he can't, then Kyle shouldn't put him out there. So he's got 2 more days of practice where he can have a quote unquote game speed practice to see if Brock is up to it.
What I don't understand, I mean, Kyle's already said that Brock's not going to be 100% healthy again this season. Got it. You've also kind of given an acknowledgement at the trade deadline that you're not really expecting to go all the way this year or even pushing to go all the way this year. You're really realistic about what's happening because all the injuries and maybe next year's a better year. So what is the point of playing Brock Purdy at less than 100% health if he's your franchise quarterback and he could re-injure it, and this season isn't really the season that you're going to go for it? It seems like, again, you're just trying to win a narrative battle.
Well, yeah, Kyle's waffled so much on this subject and he's think about all of the focus and the energy he's wasted on this debate, discussion, or whatever, when he could be focusing on game preparation, game plan, utilizing the healthy players that he has, putting them in the best situation to go forward from there. And so he's detracted himself from the focus that should be on the game of football by getting involved in this, discussion, this debate about the health and the status of Brock Purdy. But go back to day one, Kyle really has the one who initiated and cultivated this whole debate and discussion, so it falls back on his shoulders in terms of how he has, mangled the whole process.
I don't know if Kyle's thought this through, but if it weren't for Mac Jones playing so well and winning these games, the conversation around Kyle would be the fact that he got another quarterback hurt and he brought him back too soon yet again. And that's not what we're talking about because they're 6-4 and Mac Jones saved his butt. But now Brock's back. And if Brock plays again and he looks like he did against Jacksonville, either in this game or upcoming games, and he injures the toe again, then I feel like that's going to be what we talk about with Kyle Shanahan. And I don't know, I think he might be in a lot of, maybe trouble's not the right word, but he's going to face a lot of criticism for that. It's risky.
Well, the other thing about it is, forget the media and everything. What about the players in the locker room? He still owes it to them to put the best product forward. It's like, sometimes your players know who should be playing and who should not be playing. They know who's playing well and they know who's not playing well. And so sometimes your opinion as a coach or an administrator of an organization is different than how the players perceive their peers, because when it comes down to winning the ball game, the players are going to want the best players on the field who may not necessarily be their best friends or whatever, but they want to win. That's the priority. So personalities aside, the bottom line is to put the best product on the field, and the players are not going to cheat and lie to themselves at the risk of not winning the ball game.
That's true. All right, let's talk about something other than quarterbacks. Let's talk about last week's game. You and I always email each other during games. You were appalled. And I think what was interesting, the Niners gave up 7 touchdowns, 42 points. They couldn't do anything, no pass rush. They really felt the losses of their injured players. But there was more than just being outmanned. They were out-schemed, and you saw it immediately. Can you explain to people what exactly Sean McVay did to Robert Saleh?
Well, okay, the bottom line is by using the multiple tight ends formation and aligning them together side by side, whether you put a wing with 2 guys or a wing with 3 guys, 3 tight ends to a side, he stretched out the whole defensive front of the 49ers horizontally. He presented more gaps for which the Niners would have to count in the box than if he played with a conventional tight end and 5 linemen. So by lining up with 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends together, all of a sudden it's A gap, B gap, C gap, D gap, E gap. Now, the bottom line is, how are you going to align defensively against that configuration to be able to account for all the gaps? And so if they have 9 in the box and you only have 7, you're in trouble. If they have 9 in the box and you only have 8, you're still short 1. So, Robert obviously, not only did he not, I hate to say it, it's like the players and even the coaches reacted and responded like they'd never seen this formation before. And like they have never had it in a walkthrough, they never practiced against it, and even if they would have put it on cards and used trash cans or whatever, if they didn't have a scout team, at least Robert should have walked them through what we're going to do if they come out with this personnel grouping and this alignment. Here's what we want to do on the field and make the adjustment at the line of scrimmage if they come out in an unusual formation. And they had plenty of opportunity to adjust during the ball game. And yet I remember watching the snap, and I think I indicated to you, I look at the tight ends for the Rams, and they had the wing Y set up where they had the tight end on the ball and they had another tight end. And I tell you what, there was nobody in a 49er uniform aligned over the wing set. They had free access up to the secondary level, 7 yards off the ball, without any defensive lineman or a linebacker over those 2 or 3 offensive players. And I mean, you're just allowing them to just have free access for a 5 to 7 yard gain before they even have contact with the 49er jersey.
So it's not that the Niners couldn't even defend it. Like they weren't prepared. They weren't getting lined up correctly. I think it's interesting. The Rams have had a lot of success with this personnel grouping the last month or so. The Seahawks have been having success with it all season. And it seems like, one, if you don't honor it, they'll just run you over. Like the Seahawks, they beat the Cardinals by a bajillion points throwing 12 times. So they can do that to you. And if you do honor it, then they can sort of, like what the Rams did to the Niners, pass out of those sets and target your worst linebacker, Luke Gifford, and just hit him for 20-yard pass to tight ends you've never heard of. How do you match up with this? Do you use nickel personnel but load the box? I mean, what do you do?
Well, I've seen opposing teams in the past, when you go with an offensive personnel grouping of this nature, they go to a 4-4 scheme where they bring in a 4th linebacker. They only have 1 wide receiver on the field. You've got 3 tight ends. Well, they don't need to be so light in the box by using secondary players against a 255 or 245 pound tight end. So therefore, bring in another backer, take out one of your corners. You want to keep your strong safety in the game. Keep 1 corner to cover the wide receiver. In this case, whether it's Puka Nacua or whomever, Devontae Adams, you got him. You got the free safety. You can cheat a little bit to give you a combo coverage on the single receiver side, but then you're going to commit the other 9 players to the box to play that, extended horizontal formation, which the Rams in this case were displaying multiple times and having success with it.
Well, the problem with the Niners going to like a 4-4 front is that would mean they'd have to play rookie linebacker Nick Martin, who they absolutely refuse to play. It's the strangest thing. They took 2 players in round 3. Nick Martin first, Upton Stout second. They love Upton Stout. I don't know why. He's a good tackler, but he gets beaten coverage all the time. They're okay with it. They want him to learn on the job. Nick Martin, they cannot stand. As a former NFL coach, what does that tell you about Nick Martin or them?
I was thinking about this the other day when I was watching that ball game on Sunday. The Niners were not getting any pressure on Stafford. Okay, now tell me this, since you're like, the quality control guru, Nick Martin allegedly runs like a 4-5, correct?
Faster.
Yep. Okay.
Faster.
Now,
4-4.
Okay, now here's something that is going to sound crazy to you. In a 3rd down pass rush situation, I would take Nick Martin, put him on the field as an edge rusher against the weakest offensive tackle that Arizona Cardinals have. I would shift the defensive front, the other 3 linemen, away from Nick Martin so that the line has to slide to the 3 bigs, and that would leave Nick Martin one-on-one with an offensive tackle. I say, now, Nick, you run at least a 4-5, okay? You don't have a lot of rush. He had sacks in college in Oklahoma. I tell you, he had more tackles and more tackles for loss in the Big 12 since 2018. And this guy was up there, 160 tackles, 60-something tackles for losses. He's had sacks and everything. I would have polished him up and gave him a couple pass rush moves and say, okay, speed is your biggest asset. Line up on the outside, get yourself in a wide 9, a ghost 7 alignment on that offensive tackle. I want you to come off the ball 100 miles an hour, use your speed, bend and dip your hips, and use a speed rush and blow by that tackle. And just to see if I can utilize a skill that he has. And then we'll see what happens from there. Teach him a swim move, teach him a rip or whatever. He's only 5'11 and a half. But I tell you, I've seen, in fact, the Rams years ago, when they used to jump into the 46 defense in nickel situations, they had a safety on the end of the line of scrimmage rushing the quarterback, a DB. So you don't have to use a defensive lineman or a linebacker, it's just.
I mean, a lot of the time, Robert Sala's using Upton Stout as that edge rusher off the side on third down. Why not Nick Martin?
Yeah, I mean, come up. You got to utilize your personnel. Okay, if you're four rushers, if you don't have a defensive lineman who can play on the edge and win for you, you've got to go to plan B. You've got to have something else. You've got to have, more opportunities to be successful to give your team an edge.
I think it's brilliant. Rather than just lining up Sam Okwanu on the edge on third down, knowing he's not going to win at all, throw some speed out there. I like it. Let's talk offense. The Niners offense, I mean, they scored 26 points. Some of it was in garbage time. They started off slow. Mac Jones was efficient, 30 of 39. The run game was interesting in the sense that Christian McCaffrey continued to struggle, but Brian Robinson Jr. really didn't. He was pretty good, and he got 8 carries. What do you think of the Niners offense?
Oh, they did not have much flow early in the game, obviously. The thing about it is you get down to the critical situations and play selection, and as a coach and a play caller, looking at the flow of the game and how your players are matching up and how they're doing well. Here's the other thing that I want to go back to, the fourth down play, okay, because that just sticks in your craw as a coach. You're 4th and 1, okay? Now, they were in a multiple tight end formation. The Niners had Luke Farrell playing on the left side next to Trent Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 4th and 1, and they're running outside zone against one of the Rams defensive ends. Was that Brian Young out there?
Byron Young, yeah.
Yeah, Byron Young. Okay. Now, this is just dumb. Who's your best blocking tight end that you have on your roster, active, dressed up for game day?
That 85 guy.
Yeah, that World Wrestling Federation guy who's playing football for you.
Yeah, the future Hall of Famer.
Why would you want to run the ball behind this 89 or whatever, as opposed to behind Kittle, who's supposed to be the best blocking guy you got in your whole offense, on 4th and 1 in a drive that you can still have a chance to win the ball game?
To catch him off guard. I couldn't tell you.
Well, see, the thing about it, okay, that's utilization of personnel. Then number 2, he's running an outside zone play. It's 4th and 1, and he's running east and west, trying to get the edge when, I just want to say, between the tackles, to go from point A to B straight ahead rather than going, east and west. And so not only was the utilization of personnel not good, the play selection was not good. And ergo, it's turned the ball over and you lost yards on the play. And so those kind of things stick with you.
I got one question about that 4th and 1 play. Yes, it was a bad call. Why are you asking your running back to run sideways when you need 1 yard? Doesn't make sense. But 2 years ago, 2023, do you think Christian McCaffrey picks up that first down?
I don't know if he can outrun the penetration, because, see, the bottom line is if you could secure the edge for him, now I could say he should have a chance to make it. But until you can secure the block, see, the same thing with running the outside zone to the right now this past season with McKivitz out there. When you can't button run and get any movement at the point, and penetration is always across the line of scrimmage, the best back in the world at making people miss is going to struggle. I used to watch Barry Sanders all the time at Detroit. He had a league record of making more defensive players miss behind the line of scrimmage before he even got to the line of scrimmage. Well, that's what's going on with the run game right now with the Niners. Not only are you worried about McCaffrey's speed and his explosiveness and his ability to accelerate, you worry about the penetrations that are given up. And the more you run laterally, the more you allow the penetration to create a factor and an impact, and you're taking away cutback lanes and you're restricting the player to a one-way exit, and it's not a positive situation.
Yeah, if you're giving up penetration, really the last thing you should be doing is outside zone. You should be running traps and things like that to use the penetration against them, right? I mean, I'm just quality control.
One of the other thing is you talk about that. When's the last time the Niners used one of their tight ends to even wham a defensive end or a defensive tackle?
Probably when Harbaugh was the coach.
The Rams have used a wide receiver in motion to come in and wham an opponent's defensive lineman, an interior lineman, not the seal block on the edge, but I'm talking about between the tackles. And they've used a wide receiver. And, the Niners have these tight ends, and they're just, collecting dust on the sideline,
Let me ask you a question. We've talked about the 3 tight end personnel, 13 personnel. Rams are using it. Seahawks using it. Really having a lot of success. Could the Niners use it? I mean, Juszczyk isn't doing much. Jennings isn't doing much. If you had McCaffrey, Pearsall, Kittle, Tonjes, and Farrell, would that present schematic issues to defenses, or what do you think?
Well, it depends upon what kind of plays you structure around that. I wouldn't utilize that to try to run outside zone. You may run some plays that have bounce potentials to it, but the bottom line is when I use that kind of a surface against an opponent, I should be able to get some double teams involved in the picture somewhere. And so that would allow me to create some kind of movement and give me some creases into which we can, get to the second level of the opponent's defense. And so but here's the thing about it. Now, for them to utilize that personnel set, that's going to take away practice time from what Kyle wants to do with his other play calling and his designs and all that. So you have to make a commit. You just can't trot it out there for one series and say, okay, we're going to throw this out there all of a sudden and we'll see how it works. You've got to make a commit. You got to stay with it. You've got to make a concerted effort. And, your players have to understand what the goal is as well.
Well, it seemed like the Niners maybe wanted to dabble in this kind of thing when they spent so much money on Luke Farrell this offseason, but it turns out he's not that good. Okay, how about the Cardinals game coming up? Robert Saleh's coming off a terrible performance. Kyle Shanahan needs help reacclimating his number 1 wide receiver and his supposed franchise quarterback. Tom, give him some advice. What do they need to do to win this game, although it's a game they probably should win?
Well, yeah. I look at Arizona's offense. Marvin Harrison Jr. just had appendicitis surgery on Monday, I believe. So he's out. Kyler Murray's out. They've lost their 2 starting running backs. Their 2 other wide receivers, Zay Jones and another guy they now have put on IR. I tell you, name another offensive player besides the tight end McBride.
Michael Wilson from Stanford.
Yeah, he's got
3 passes.
He's had a couple of big plays, but he has not had, a significant number to establish himself as a threat. But he does have speed. He does have ability. So you're looking at a 2-prong attack in the passing game. You got a backup quarterback, Brissett, who's had some success. The other thing that, I still throw a caution flag out. 5 of the 6 losses by Arizona have been for 4 points and less.
That's right. So and a bunch of them are on a field goal on the final play.
They have played pretty well despite all of the injuries and, the inadequacies that they've faced due to guys being injured and all that. So they've hung in there pretty good. So it's not going to be they're not going to just throw in the talent and let it be a blowout. They did give up points to Seattle. Seattle was up 28-0, I think, at one point. But I don't know if the Niners have the weapons to go out there and score 28 points in the first half.
They said they do. George Kittle said that they can score 40 points a game when Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall come back. I mean, what don't they have other than an offensive line and a running back averaging more than 3 yards a carry?
There used to be a statement about don't let your mouth write checks your butt can't cover. Well, I think that George, needs to understand that they've got to go out and do it on the field, not just talk about it in the locker room or talk about it in a press conference. And so until they do it, you have high hopes for them, all the aspirations. This is the week for them to see if they can go out there and explode offensively. Well, number one, they can keep the defense off the field so that Arizona may not be able to utilize some of the weaknesses and flaws that they've seen in the Niners the previous weeks from a defensive perspective. But this should be a better week for the Niners, both offensively and defensively. I think, although I go back offensively, I should not put my lips on it and say that the Niners offense will do well, because they still got to block this guy named Calais Campbell, and they got this guy Josh Sweat. They've got a couple of players up in the box who can present some problems for the 49ers from a pass protection perspective. And so it's not going to be a cakewalk in that regard. Arizona's got a couple of guys who are, and then I love the Buda Baker guy playing in the secondary. The guy's out there. He's older than you are, and he's still playing the game. And, he brings his best efforts every Sunday. So, you have a lot of respect for him as well.
All right. Well, let's help the 49ers game plan by going to our Playbook breakdown segment powered by Pass Reps, where we make you smarter about football every week. You can get pass reps yourself and actually practice calling plays before Sunday for only $1.99 a month. Just go to passreps.com or click the link below. All right, what is the play we're looking at this week?
Okay, now, this is one of my favorite plays that I would utilize with a tight end. In this case, Kittle. I tell you, or they got this other kid from Cal, Tonjes. This guy would be great on this pattern. It's a sail route for the tight end. Instead of running the straight 9 route on the outside, which is the universal way to run the sail route, the outside receiver always runs a vertical. But when you play different coverages like quarters and things like that, we're going to run the post with the flanker, which will clear the corner out. And now the tight end can run the sail route, whether it's a 3-deep zone or quarters coverage, whether he's man-to-man with the safety. This is a great pattern for Kittle. Push it up to 12, 13 yards. And now if he breaks it into the void out there, as you'll see here, he can settle versus zone, and he can run away from man and utilize his speed. And it's a great, nice throw. The other reason why I like it also, Grant, is Kyle has a habit of throwing the ball into the middle of the field all the time on square in routes. So many defenders are there, linebackers, safeties, and things like that. When I run the short corner of the sail route with a tight end, I've only got one defender out there. I've cleaned it out with the post going out there, so it's one-on-one with the tight end. I can control the underneath coverage with the back and the flat. So I have a vertical stretch concept with the post, with the sail route and the flat. And now I can give the quarterback a quicker read, fewer defenders. He's not throwing down the gut of the defense where he may not see a linebacker. He's, especially with Purdy out there, it's the angle throw. He can use trajectory. He doesn't need to drill it. He can throw it with touch, and it works extremely well against all coverages. I tell you what, it's really a nice opportunity for him to have a successful pass. And then Kittle is very good at running this route. This is one of the best routes that he runs in his tight end tree, is the sail route. He reads it well, stay on the move versus man, settle versus zone.
And is this sort of like a classic flood concept where you get 3 levels of people on one side of the formation of the pattern?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's a good observation. And then now on the backside, I want to help protect a little bit, even though it's drawn up from a right formation here, but I shift the back up in the wing so he can chip, and then he can run a pressure route, which will be underneath the square in on the backside. And I may even tighten down the split receiver so that he's not as wide on the backside, if that's Pearsall or Jennings or even one of the other guys that they're shooting up. But run that route underneath. But I can also find a way to help with my protection because I'm going to need a little bit more of a deeper set to make this. This is not a 3-step and throw kind of concept. So it's a big 5 or a fast 7 set up by the quarterback if he's not in gun, and then be able to make the throw. And so
how would you coach this play? Like, is Kittle the first progression, or would you want him to look top down? Like, would you first want to see if the post is open and then go to Kittle and then go to F, or would you ever go to X on the backside?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to look at the alignment of the secondary, the safety. Okay, if I've got the strong safety lined up virtually in the tracks of the tight end's alignment, I'm thinking, and on the snap of the ball, the safeties, stay straight. I'm thinking I've got a great opportunity to win on the strong side. If it's because when I see that safety lined up over the tight end and he backpedals and straight line and reading the stem of the Y, I'm looking outside for the post, obviously, for the big play over the top because the corner's playing outside technique without the safety in the post to be able to help him. I've got a shot deep. And then I can go to the wide, which is Kittle in this case at the tight end spot. And the only thing that can stop that would be the deep. If that corner is hanging on it, I should throw the post route. See, the thing about the mistake everyone makes, Grant, on this play is they have in their mind they're throwing wise sail. But the thing about it, I, as a quarterback, have to think and make the defense believe I'm going to throw the deep route, be it the 9 or the 8 route, until I see the corner turn and run with the deep route. Then I'm going to throw the sail. As long as you're eyeballing me as a corner and you're watching and chewing on me, I'm going to throw the 9 route because I can't throw the sail because the corner's just waiting. He goes, oh, this is the universal vertical flood. This is a bogus 9 route or a bogus 8 route. They're going to throw the sail. So they cheat in the secondary and they're going to wait and just jump it. Well, you know what? I'm going to throw the 9 or the 8 until I see you turn and run. That's rule number 1.
Carson Palmer used to do a good job of that under Bruce Arians on the Cardinals. I remember he'd be very aggressive throwing that go route with that concept.
You got to throw it. And see, if a quarterback is not convinced he's not going to do a good job of selling it, the defense will read it and they're going to jump all over the sail.
You just saw the breakdown. Now go test your own football IQ. Pass reps updates weekly, $199 a month. The link's below. Don't just watch the game. Call it. All right, Tom, who do you think is going to win? You think the Cardinals are going to win, don't you?
No, the Niners should win this ball game. And I won't say they'll win it handily, but, they should, if they execute on both sides of the ball as special teams cooperates and, doesn't have any muff punt returns and things like that, or lay the ball on the ground on fumbles, the Niners should be able to win this ball game 24-13.
13. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners won big in this game. I mean, the Cardinals have been hanging tough, but with all these injuries this late in the season, at some point they might just run out of gas, and this could be that point. We'll see. Why don't we put our moolah where our mouth is and do some prize picks? Let's get it up on the screen. I love prize picks because they try to figure out along with us who the quarterback's going to be. Apparently today they think Mac Jones is going to be the quarterback. I highly disagree, but we don't know. Also, I want to point out that I've been doing these prize picks a long time, and I always do them with my co-host, and we never get them all right. Tom got 6 right. 6 out of 6 last week. So I guess we see why he coached in the NFL, huh? Tom, congratulations. That's very you won me $500. Thank you.
Why is the check in the mail?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if you can do it again. Mac Jones, if he plays 199.5 passing yards, do you think he'll eclipse that? Well, he's not even going to play. I'm going to leave him alone. Jacoby Brissett, 235.5 passing yards, more or less.
I tell you what, I will say fewer.
Fewer.
Ironically, Jacoby in this last 4 games, each game has been a reduction in the amount of yards and for which he's throwing. He's coming back down to earth, so to speak.
I love how Tom knows that without even looking at the numbers on this. He just knows all these things about the league. He's the best. Just want you to acknowledge that. Okay, Jacoby fewer. Let's go rushing yards. Jeez, man. Zonovan Knight, if he even played. How about Christian McCaffrey? How about Bryant? No, listen to both of them. Christian McCaffrey, 71.5 rushing yards, more or fewer?
I will say more.
Ooh, interesting. I like that. What about what's going on here, buddy? What's going on? Brian Robinson Jr., 17.5 rushing yards. He had 41 against the Rams and 53 against the Giants.
I will say more because he can do that in one run.
He can. He's the most explosive runner on the team somehow. How about George Kittle, 52.5 receiving yards? More or fewer?
I'll say more. Because if I'm Kyle, I'm going to have a lot of quick, easy throws. Also, for if Brock Purdy plays this week, I'm going to want the ball in and out of his hands, and I'm going to use Kyle as his go-to guy besides McCaffrey.
How about Trey McBride, 75.5, more or fewer?
I'll say more for him because he's got a chance to be featured this week without Marvin Harrison Jr. out there.
Yeah, he's the whole offense right now. Okay, last one, just to give you 6 because I don't want to go easy on you. You're so good. Christian McCaffrey, 50.5 receiving yards, more or
I'll
less.
say more.
Or fewer.
More.
It's going to be a big Christian day. Those are our picks. Again, Tom's on a heater, so take that for what you will. We're going to flex it. No, we're going to power play it because Tom's going to get it right. Let's put down 40 to win 1,600. Feeling good about it. Let's submit the lineup. Download the app yourself. Prize Picks. Play $5. Get 50 instantly in lineups when you use promo code COHN. So we're picking the Niners to win. You said 24-13?
24-13.
Lock it in. Tom seems to know what he's talking about. Tom, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Looking forward to doing this again next week.
Well, have a good trip to Phoenix.
Real quick, before we go, Mindful says, do we not hear Brady during the last game say you can't have a good football team without a strong, stout offensive line? Say it, quest for 6 times so Shanny can hear it. What do you think? How important is a strong offensive line to a Super Bowl team?
Oh, it is. I tell you, I look at what's going on in the league right now, and that's why Indianapolis, they've got some really good play out of Jonathan Taylor, running back, as well as Daniel Jones. But their offensive line has been doing quite well. And unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, they've had some leaks in the dike, and they've given up some sacks. I think Daniel Jones has taken 5 sacks 2 weeks ago, or the Steelers got him for 7, and the Falcons got him for 5 the week before. But they're going to get healthy this week. So
yeah,
got to be good in the trenches.
Yeah, like, why is Daniel Jones playing so much better this year than in the past? Yeah, the coaching and the scheme, but maybe the offensive line has a big part to do with that. He was getting destroyed in New York. Anyway, thanks for watching. Tom, have a great day.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Have a good trip down to Santa Clara.